The courthouse is buzzing. A line of people stretch past the metal detectors, filing in under the glow of flickering fluorescent lights. Everyone looks tired, impatient, nervous, except one woman. She moves quietly, with calm steps and sharp eyes. A simple navy dress, short braids tucked neatly behind her ears, no jewelry except a small silver cross, no robe, no title. Just Alicia Brown, walking through the building she's about to rule. She likes coming early. Before the noise, before the arguments, before people remember who she is. But today, that silence doesn't last long. At the security checkpoint, a voice cuts through the chatter. "Ma'am, I said step back." She looks up. Officer Mark Turner, uniform crisp, chin raised, his hand resting on his belt. He's new, the type who likes the power of the badge more than the duty behind it. Alicia blinks, confused. "I already went through security." Turner's tone sharpens. "Then why are you still here?" "I work here." "Doing what exactly?" She pauses. There's no arrogance in her voice, just calm authority. "I'm here for court proceedings." He squints. "Witness?" "No." "Defendant?" Her lips tighten slightly. "No." Turner laughs. "Then you're lost." He waves a hand dismissively. "Downstairs is for jurors, not visitors." A few people in line turn to watch. Alicia feels the weight of their eyes, but she doesn't react. She's seen men like him before. Loud, certain, blind. Turner steps closer, towering over her. "ID. I don't have it on me." "Then you shouldn't be in this building." She breathes slowly, keeping her voice steady. "Officer Turner, I suggest you lower your tone." He scoffs. "You suggest?" He looks her up and down. "You think because you're dressed nice you get a pass? You people always—" He stops himself halfway. But everyone heard it. Every word hangs in the air, heavy and sour. A murmur runs through the hall. Alicia doesn't move. Her heartbeat doesn't change. She just watches him. Turner smirks. "What, no comeback?" She tilts her head slightly. "No, I'm just memorizing this moment." "For what?" "So when justice speaks, I remember what it sounded like before it learned manners." The silence that follows is deafening. Even the metal detector's buzz feels muted. A clerk at the front desk whispers to another, "That's Judge Brown, isn't it?" The other clerk's eyes widen. "Oh my God, yes." Turner's smirk fades as whispers ripple through the crowd, but he doubles down. Arrogance often does. "Judge, huh?" he says mockingly. "Well, you sure don't look like one." Alicia stares at him, unflinching. "Good. Maybe that's why you felt brave enough to talk to me that way." He opens his mouth to speak, but the clerk interrupts. "Your Honor, the courtroom's ready for you." And that's when it hits him. The title. The room. The realization. The woman he just mocked, belittled, and profiled isn't a witness. She isn't a defendant. She's the one who sits behind the bench. The judge. The crowd parts as she walks past him. Every step is quiet, measured, absolute. She doesn't look back, doesn't raise her voice, doesn't need to. Turner's chest tightens. His face flushes with heat. He mutters to himself, "This can't be happening." But it is. And everyone saw it. He watches her climb the stairs to courtroom 3B, the sound of her heels echoing off marble floors. Every tap a reminder of what arrogance costs. Inside the courtroom, Alicia sets down her case file on the bench. Her clerk leans in, whispering, "You want me to report him?" She shakes her head. "Not yet." The clerk frowns. "You're going to let that slide?" Alicia opens the file calmly. "I don't let things slide. I let them reveal themselves." Outside, Turner paces the hallway, sweat collecting at his collar. Other officers glance at him, whispering. One smirks. "Nice work, rookie. First week on the job and you already managed to insult a federal judge." Turner glares. "Shut up." But his voice trembles. He stares at the courtroom door. Courtroom 3B. He's supposed to be assigned there for duty rotation later this week. Now, he wonders if that's still true. He imagines her sitting on the bench, robe flowing, voice firm. The same calm face he mocked now holding the power to decide his fate. For the first time, he feels something he doesn't recognize. Not guilt, not fear. Something worse. Inevitability. Inside, Alicia reviews the morning docket. Her reflection catches in the polished nameplate before her, Judge A. Brown. She takes a quiet breath. In her mind, she replays his words, "You people always..." Then she exhales and murmurs, "Justice doesn't shout, it waits." And with that, She begins the first case of the day, as if nothing happened. But deep down, she knows this isn't over. Not yet. Officer Mark Turner can't stop pacing the hallway. Every footstep echoes back at him like a taunt. He checks his watch, wipes sweat from his brow, and mutters, "She's not going to hold a grudge. Judges don't do that, right?" But even as he says it, he doesn't believe it. The courthouse hums with whispers now. People who saw the incident replay it to one another in hushed tones. "Did you see how she just stared at him?" one clerk says. "She didn't even raise her voice. That's how you know he's done." Mark tries to block it out, but every word digs deeper. He wants to leave, to vanish, but he's on duty until noon. And worse, he's assigned to courtroom 3B. Inside, Judge Alicia Brown handles her morning docket with flawless calm. Her gavel falls with precision, her tone steady, her rulings sharp. No one would guess that just an hour ago she was humiliated outside her own courtroom. But she remembers. Every word, every look, every insult that slid from Turner's tongue like oil on glass. Still, she doesn't show it. Justice doesn't rush. Justice builds. By 10 a.m., Turner walks into courtroom 3B for his post. He stands by the door, eyes down, trying to look invisible. But the moment she looks up from her paperwork and meets his gaze, he freezes. Their eyes lock. A heartbeat passes. 2. Then she nods slightly. Not acknowledgement, not forgiveness, just confirmation that she remembers. He swallows hard. "Yes, Your Honor," he says softly. She doesn't reply. The room fills quickly. Defendants, lawyers, clerks, all unaware of the quiet war humming beneath the surface. The first case begins. A young black man stands before the bench, accused of resisting arrest. The arresting officer's name? Mark Turner. A murmur ripples through the courtroom. Turner stiffens. Alicia looks down at the file, her expression unreadable. "Officer Turner," she says calmly. "Approach." He hesitates. "Now." He steps forward, his boots clicking against the polished floor. The sound feels louder than it should. She studies the paperwork. "The defendant alleges you used excessive force during a routine stop." Turner nods, throat dry. "Yes, Your Honor, he was non-compliant." She looks up. "How old is he?" 19? "Was he armed?" "No, ma'am." "Did he threaten you?" "He raised his voice." The courtroom falls silent. Alicia leans back in her chair, eyes steady. "So he raised his voice, and your response was to throw him to the ground?" Turner opens his mouth, but nothing comes out. She lets the silence stretch. Every second feels like an eternity. Finally, she says, "Do you understand, officer, that authority without restraint is not justice?" He stammers, I was following protocol." Her tone hardens. "Protocol is not a shield for cruelty. You wear that uniform to protect dignity, not destroy it." The words cut deeper than shouting ever could. He nods slowly, eyes on the floor. She closes the file. Case adjourned for review. Officer Turner, remain after court. The rest of the session continues as if nothing happened, but everyone in the room feels the tension. It's in every look, every whisper, every quiet breath, held too long. When the last case ends, Alicia rises. All dismissed. Her gavel falls one final time. The sound rings like judgment itself. As the courtroom empties, Turner stays frozen by the door. When it's just the two of them, she removes her glasses and finally looks at him. Not as a judge, not as a victim, but as someone tired of excuses. "Officer Turner," she begins, "tell me, what did you see when you looked at me this morning?" He hesitates. I saw someone who didn't belong." "And why didn't I belong?" He can't answer. Her voice stays calm, but the edge in it sharpens. "You saw color before character, uniform before humanity. That's not law enforcement, that's fear." He looks up, eyes red. "I was wrong." "Yes," she says. "But not just about me." She steps closer, lowering her voice. "You treat the law like a weapon. But the law isn't a gun, officer. It's a mirror." He doesn't move. Her gaze doesn't waver. "When you point it at others, it shows you who you really are." For the first time, he doesn't argue. He just stands there, silent, stripped of every excuse, every layer of arrogance he wore like armor. "I'll file my report," she says, turning toward her desk. He nods. "Will I lose my job?" She pauses, glancing back. "That depends on what you do next." Outside, the courthouse buzzes again. Word is spreading faster than the morning coffee. Did you hear? Judge Brown dressed down that new officer right in court. About time someone did. By noon, the whispers have turned to posts. By afternoon, the posts become headlines. Racist officer confronted by black judge. Justice served live in court. Turner sees it on his phone before he even gets back to the station. His stomach drops. His hands tremble. The same arrogance that once powered him now burns him alive under the light of truth. He scrolls through comments, people tagging him, mocking him, quoting the line that will haunt him forever. The law isn't a gun. It's a mirror. Meanwhile, Alicia sits in her chambers, the noise of the world faint behind her door. Her clerk enters quietly. They're already calling you a hero. She shakes her head. I'm not a hero. I'm a reminder. The clerk frowns. Of what? She looks out the window, the sunlight cutting through courthouse glass like a blade. That no one, not even those who enforce the law, stands above it. Her reflection looks back at her, calm, composed, and unbreakable. Justice, silent but watching. By the time the sun begins to set, the courthouse is surrounded by cameras. News vans block the street. Reporters press against the barricades like waves against glass, shouting questions no one inside wants to answer. Is it true Judge Brown was harassed by an officer? Will the department issue a statement? Who's the cop in the video? They already know the answer. Everyone does. The clip has gone viral. 17 seconds of humiliation. Officer Mark Turner talking down to a black woman in the courthouse lobby, only to find out she's the presiding judge minutes later. The video freezes on his stunned face. It's already being memed, looped, and dissected across every platform. #justice. For Judge Brown, accountability. In uniform, #mirror law. Inside his patrol car, Turner scrolls through his phone, sweat beating down his neck. Every headline cuts deeper. Officer Turner embarrasses himself and the force. Racist encounter in courthouse sparks nationwide outrage. Judge Brown's silence speaks louder than any sentence. His radio crackles. Turner, report to Chief's office, immediately. His throat tightens. He starts the engine, drives through the chaos outside the courthouse, and feels hundreds of eyes follow him. He used to like the attention that came with the uniform. Now it feels like a spotlight in a cell. In her chambers upstairs, Judge Alicia Brown sits at her desk, the blinds half drawn. Her clerk knocks softly. Your Honor, the mayor's office is calling again. She doesn't answer. They want a statement, he continues. Everyone does. She closes the folder in front of her. Tell them this isn't about me, it's about what comes next. The clerk nods, uneasy. They'll twist your silence. Let them, she says quietly. Silence makes them listen longer. Meanwhile, at police headquarters, Turner stands before Chief Daniels, a thick man with a thinning temper. The chief's office smells like stale coffee and anger. Daniels tosses a printed screenshot across the desk, the video's thumbnail. You want to tell me what the hell this is? Turner stares at the photo, his own face frozen mid-sneer, Alicia's calm expression in front of him. Sir, it was a misunderstanding. Misunderstanding? The chief roars. You humiliated this department in front of the entire country. Turner clenches his fists. I didn't know who she was. That's the point, Daniel shouts. You shouldn't have to know who someone is to treat them like a human being. The words hit harder than he expects. He lowers his head. I messed up. Messed up? Daniel stands, pointing to the window where protesters gather outside. You didn't just mess up, son. You lit the match. Hours later, Alicia leaves the courthouse through a back exit. She walks past reporters, past flashing lights, past microphones reaching out like claws. Her driver opens the car door, but she stops. Across the street, a small crowd is holding candles. No signs, no shouting, just candles and quiet. Someone in the group calls softly, God bless you, Judge Brown. She doesn't wave, she doesn't speak. She simply nods once, her eyes glinting in the candlelight. Then she gets in the car. At home, Alicia sits at her dining table, robe folded neatly on the chair beside her. Her phone buzzes nonstop, messages from other judges, politicians, strangers. But she ignores them all. Instead, she scrolls to one contact she hasn't called in months, Eleanor Harris, her mentor and retired judge. She presses dial. Eleanor answers on the first ring. I saw the video, she says. I figured you did, Alicia replies softly. There's a pause. You handled it well. Calm, controlled, just like I taught you. It didn't feel like control, Alicia admits. It felt like restraint on fire. Eleanor chuckles softly. That's what justice is, dear. Fire that knows where to burn. At that same hour, Turner sits alone in his apartment. The blinds are drawn, lights off, the blue glow of his phone illuminating his face. He reads the comments, thousands of them. Another cop caught in 4K. She handled him like a pro. Imagine being this blind to your own bias. He tosses the phone onto the couch, breathing heavily. His reflection stares back at him from the dark TV screen. He hates what he sees, not because the world does, but because, for the first time, he finally does too. A knock at the door. He hesitates before opening it. Two internal affairs officers stand in the hallway. "Officer Turner," one says, "you're suspended pending investigation." He doesn't argue, he just nods. They leave him with a thin white envelope. He tears it open, but he doesn't need to read it. He already knows what it says. The next morning, the clip is everywhere, from national news to late-night comedy. But something changes. It's no longer about Turner's mistake. It's about Alicia's composure. Her silence has become a statement stronger than outrage. News anchors replay her calm face as Turner berates her, calling it the look that defined accountability. Social media shifts. Hashtag Maya moment trends. Not just for her, but for anyone who's ever stayed calm while being disrespected. People share their own stories, videos, memories. A movement begins, quietly, with her face at the center of it. At the courthouse, Alicia arrives early again, just like before, but this time, no one stops her. Officers nod respectfully as she passes. The same hallway that once echoed with humiliation now hums with apology. Her clerk meets her at the door. "They're calling you the symbol of silent justice." Alicia sets down her briefcase. "I'm not a symbol," she says softly. "I'm just a mirror." The clerk frowns. "What do you mean?" She looks at him, eyes steady. "I didn't expose him. He did that himself. All I did was stand still long enough for the truth to show its face." Outside, protesters continue to gather, not in anger but in solidarity. The courthouse lights gleam against handmade signs. Dignity has no uniform. Justice doesn't shout, it waits. And above them all, her name glows on every screen. Judge Alicia Brown, the woman who turned silence into justice. Morning breaks over the city like a slow confession. The courthouse is quieter than usual, but the silence isn't peace, it's pressure. Everyone feels it. Reporters camp outside the building, their microphones aimed like weapons. Security lines stretch around the block. Every officer, every clerk, every lawyer whispers the same name. Judge Alicia Brown. Inside her chambers, Alicia sits with her coffee untouched, reading an early email from the chief of police. "Your Honor, we would appreciate a private conversation regarding the recent incident involving Officer Turner. The department wishes to resolve this internally and respectfully." She reads it twice. Respectfully. The irony isn't lost on her. Her clerk, Jamie, stands near the door. "They're scared," he says. Alicia closes the email. They should be. Across town, at police headquarters, chaos reigns. Chief Daniels slams a stack of newspapers on the table. Every front page shows the same image. Turner mid-yell, Alicia mid-silence. Underneath, the moment the badge met its match. Turner sits across from him, pale, his uniform crumpled. "This is a nightmare," he mutters. Daniels glares. "You think it's just your nightmare? You embarrassed an entire department. I said I'm sorry." "Sorry doesn't erase cameras." Turner drops his gaze. The chief exhales, tired. "You've been suspended with pay for now. Internal Affairs is investigating. But if the judge presses charges..." Turner looks up. "She won't." Daniels narrows his eyes. "How do you know?" Turner hesitates. "She's not like that." "Not like what?" Turner swallows hard. "She's calm, controlled, the kind who lets you drown in your own mistake." Daniels doesn't reply. He just mutters, "Then you'd better start learning how to swim." By noon, social media has turned the courthouse into a stage. Clips from news interviews loop nonstop. Experts, activists, politicians. Everyone has an opinion, but only one person stays silent, Judge Brown. In her chambers, a representative from the Office of Judicial Affairs sits across from her, nervously adjusting his tie. "Your Honor, the governor would appreciate a statement." Alicia leans back. "A statement about what?" He stammers. "About your, composure. The way you handled the incident. It's inspiring the public." She tilts her head slightly. So they want me to speak because I didn't? He blinks, unsure how to respond. She smiles faintly. Tell the governor silence was my statement. And it worked. The man nods awkwardly and hurries out. Jamie, her clerk, looks impressed. You're really not going to say anything? She shakes her head. I'll speak when the system listens. Oh, not before. That afternoon, Turner walks the streets in plain clothes. He's tried to avoid the news, but it's impossible. Every corner store has the story on TV. Every passerby glances twice. He hears whispers. That's him. He stops at a red light, staring at his reflection in a store window. He looks different now. Not like a cop, not like a man, just a face that the world has decided means wrong. For a moment, anger flares, then guilt, then nothing, just emptiness. He heads toward the department building. A crowd has gathered outside, protesters holding signs. Justice has no rank. She stayed silent so we could speak. One protester locks eyes with him. Hey, the man shouts. You're the cop, aren't you? The one who disrespected her? Turner doesn't answer. He keeps walking. The man shouts again. Apologize, say her name. Turner stops, trembling. He opens his mouth, but no sound comes out. He just walks away. At the same time, Alicia sits in her office, staring out the window. Her phone vibrates. A text from an unknown number. They're coming for your seat, Judge. Politics don't like quiet power. She reads it once, locks the screen, and exhales. The higher she climbs, the louder the silence around her becomes. Jamie notices her expression. Bad news? She shakes her head slowly. No, just confirmation that I'm making the right people uncomfortable. He hesitates, then says, Are you afraid they'll retaliate? Alicia's gaze hardens. Afraid? No, I'm prepared. That evening, she attends a closed meeting at City Hall. Mayor Keller greets her with a forced smile. Judge Brown, thank you for coming on such short notice. She nods curtly. I was told this was urgent. The mayor gestures for her to sit. We're under pressure. Public, media, donors, they all want a message of unity. He leans forward. We'd like you to forgive Officer Turner publicly. It would help de-escalate tensions. Alicia's eyes narrow. You want me to absolve him so you can protect optics? The mayor clears his throat. Let's be honest, Judge. The country's divided. People are angry. A statement of forgiveness would make you look merciful, she interrupts. But it wouldn't make the system just. The mayor sighs. Judge Brown, you're becoming a symbol. Be careful. Symbols are easy to break. She stands, her voice calm but cutting. Then maybe the system should stop making them necessary. She walks out before he can reply. Outside City Hall, the air is cold and sharp. She pauses on the steps, looking out over the street. Hundreds of candles flickering in the dark. People aren't shouting anymore. They're waiting. For something honest. And for the first time, Alicia feels the weight of what silence can do. Not just to shame, but to shape. She whispers to herself, he doesn't deserve forgiveness yet. But the truth does. That night, Turner lies awake, watching the glow of streetlights paint the ceiling. Every sound in his apartment feels too loud. The hum of the fridge, the ticking clock, his own breath. He reaches for his phone, hesitates, then finally types one message. Judge Brown, I need to speak to you, not as an officer, as a man who was wrong. He hits send, then sits there, waiting in the dark. At that same moment in her apartment across the city, Alicia's phone buzzes. She reads the message, her expression unreadable. After a long pause, she types one line back. Then be ready to tell the truth. Not to me, but to yourself. She sets the phone down beside her. Outside, thunder rolls across the sky. Soft, distant, inevitable. Morning arrives quietly, but there's a heaviness in the air, the kind that comes when truth is too loud to ignore. Judge Alicia Brown sits by her window, the soft gray light spilling across her desk. Her phone lies face down beside her coffee cup. She hasn't replied again to Officer Mark Turner's message. One line was enough. Tell the truth to yourself. But she wonders if he will. She looks out over the city, streets filling again, reporters gathering like shadows. She's become the story now, and she hates that. Justice, she believes, should never be personal. And yet, here she is, the face of a country's reflection. Across town, Turner sits in his car in a deserted parking lot. He hasn't gone back to work. Can't. He hasn't shaved. His uniform hangs over the passenger seat, wrinkled, useless. He replays the video in his head. Every look, every word, every pause before she said, "I'm just memorizing this moment." He grips the steering wheel until his knuckles go white. That line won't leave him. He opens his phone, scrolling through hundreds of messages, hate, threats, and one that cuts deeper than the rest. Now you know what it feels like to be judged without being seen. He exhales shakily. "I do," he whispers, and it scares him how true that feels. At the courthouse, the day begins as usual. Clerks whisper in hallways, guards keep their eyes lowered, and reporters hover outside like storm clouds. But something's different. The noise feels softer, the anger quieter, because Alicia's silence is starting to spread, not as weakness but as restraint. When she enters the courtroom, everyone stands. For once, the respect feels real, not rehearsed. Her clerk, Jamie, leans over as she sits. Turner sent another message. Alicia doesn't look up. What did he say? He wants to meet, says he's ready to talk publicly. She exhales. Of course he does. Jamie hesitates. You don't trust him? I trust the truth, she replies softly. But I don't trust timing. That afternoon, Alicia receives a call from the Department of Internal Affairs. Your Honor, the investigator says, Officer Turner has requested a hearing. Voluntary testimony. He wants to make a public apology on record. Her fingers tap the desk. Public? Yes, ma'am, the press will be there. A long pause. She glances at the sunlight bleeding through the blinds. Then she says, schedule it. At police headquarters, Turner signs a waiver. He's pale, hands trembling, but his eyes, for the first time in days, look alive. Chief Daniels watches him closely. You sure about this? Turner nods. I need to say it where everyone can hear it. Daniels sighs. Then make sure you mean it. Evening falls. The hearing room is packed. Reporters, officers, civilians, even a few of Alicia's fellow judges. The tension is suffocating. Turner stands at the front, microphone trembling in his hand. Alicia sits in the back row, robe off, silent, anonymous. She doesn't want him to see her. She just wants to see if he's finally telling the truth. He clears his throat. My name is Officer Mark Turner, and I'm here today to say I was wrong. Flashes explode from cameras. He continues. When I saw Judge Brown that morning, I didn't see a person. I saw what I wanted to see. Someone beneath me. Someone I thought didn't belong. The room is dead quiet. I thought the badge gave me power, he says, but all it gave me was fear. Fear that someone smarter, stronger, better would make me small. He looks down at his shaking hands. I humiliated a woman who spent her life defending the very justice I claimed to protect, and I'll live with that. A murmur runs through the crowd. Surprise, disbelief, respect. He swallows hard. I don't expect forgiveness. I don't deserve it. But I wanted you all to hear me say it. He looks toward the back, and though he doesn't see her, he feels her there. Like gravity. Outside, the press swarms. Questions fire like bullets. Was that apology scripted? Is Judge Brown satisfied? Should he be reinstated? Alicia steps past them quietly. No escort, no statement. One reporter shouts, Your Honor, what do you think of Officer Turner's apology? She stops, turns, looks straight at the camera. Her voice is calm, even. Apologies are words. Justice is change. We'll see which lasts longer. Then she walks away, leaving the microphones hanging in the air, empty, like the excuses they used to hold. That night, news stations replay the apology side by side with her quote. The contrast goes viral. One man's guilt, one woman's grace. But it's what happens off-screen that matters most. A small protest group outside the courthouse lowers their signs. They start collecting donations, not for anger, but for reform programs. Her silence made us listen, one woman says. Now we'll speak for her. Within hours, a movement forms. The Brown Initiative. Its mission, mandatory empathy and bias training for all law enforcement, not punishment. Education. And the first person to volunteer? Mark Turner. He writes a letter to the board that night. I can't change what I did, he begins, but maybe I can help others see what I couldn't. He signs it quietly, then adds one final line at the bottom. The law isn't a gun, it's a mirror. Across town, Alicia sits on her couch, watching the coverage replay on silent. She sees his face, nervous, trembling, honest. She nods slowly. Finally, he's starting to understand. Jamie calls from the courthouse. They're calling it historic, he says. She smiles faintly. No, it's just overdue. He pauses. Do you forgive him? She looks out the window where the city lights shimmer like small, stubborn stars. I don't have to, she says softly. Forgiveness is for the past. I'm working on the future. The wind outside whistles through the cracks in the window frame. It sounds almost like a voice, faint, steady, and calm, a whisper. Not of guilt, of change. By sunrise, the headlines have changed again. No longer racist cop harasses black judge. Now it reads, Officer Turner's public apology sparks internal review. The tone has shifted. The storm isn't rage anymore, but it's reflection. But reflection cuts deeper than anger ever could. At the courthouse, Judge Alicia Brown arrives early, as always. No cameras this time. No shouting, just quiet respect. Her clerk Jamie follows, clutching a folder. Internal Affairs sent over their formal request, Your Honor. They want your testimony. Alicia pauses at the door to her chambers. They already have the footage. What more could I add? Jamie hesitates. They said they want context. Alicia sighs. Context, she repeats, half to herself. The one thing everyone ignores until it's too late. She takes the folder. Inside are printed reports, summaries, and a statement request form. At the bottom of the page, a single line reads, Judge's perspective, optional. She closes the folder. Optional, she murmurs. I like that word. Across town, Mark Turner sits in a gray-walled conference room under fluorescent lights. Two investigators sit opposite him, recorders blinking red. The air smells like coffee gone cold. Officer Turner, the lead investigator begins, we appreciate your cooperation. Today's interview will focus on your training and prior conduct. Turner nods. I understand. The investigator flips a page. You've had 2 prior complaints, both dismissed. One for language, one for excessive force. Yes, Turner says quietly. Do you believe those dismissals were fair? He looks down. No. The investigator raises an eyebrow. No? Turner exhales slowly. I thought they were at the time, but looking back, I think I got away with them. The second investigator, a woman, leans forward. Why admit that now? He shrugs faintly. Because the person I was back then would have called it loyalty. The person I am now knows it was cowardice. The first investigator studies him. You're aware this testimony could end your career? Turner nods. Yes, sir. Maybe it should. Meanwhile, Alicia sits in her office, watching rain streak across the courthouse windows. She hasn't filled out the statement form. Not yet. Jamie enters. Should I tell them you'll send it later? She looks up. No, I'll go in person. He blinks. Wait, you're going to testify? She smiles slightly. I told them silence was my weapon, but even silence has to speak when the system starts listening. At 11 a.m., Alicia walks into the Internal Affairs building. Cameras flash from a distance, but she keeps her gaze forward. Inside, the air is cool and sterile, a place built to hold secrets and make them official. The lead investigator greets her. Your Honor, thank you for agreeing to appear. Alicia sits, placing her hands neatly on the table. I'm not here for appearances, she says. I'm here for accountability. He nods. Then you'll fit right in. As the recording begins, he asks the first question. Judge Brown, can you describe your initial interaction with Officer Turner? Her answer is calm, deliberate. I was treated as if I didn't belong in my own courthouse. That's not unusual. But what made it different was the silence that followed. The silence of everyone who watched and said nothing. The investigator writes something down. So the problem wasn't just him? Alicia shakes her head. No, he was the symptom. The disease was comfort. The room goes still. She continues, voice steady but sharp. People get comfortable with power until someone shows them what it looks like from the other side. Hours later, the report begins to take shape. Pattern of bias and misconduct identified. Failure of oversight acknowledged. The city moves slowly that day, like it's holding its breath. For once, it's not waiting for punishment. It's waiting for truth. By late afternoon, Turner leaves the Internal Affairs building. A reporter ambushes him on the sidewalk. Officer Turner, are you afraid you'll lose your job? He stops. The old version of him would have walked away. The new one looks directly at the camera. If I lose it, he says, then maybe someone better gets to wear it next. The clip airs within the hour. Public opinion starts to shift again. Not in his favor, not against him, but towards something more complicated. Understanding. That evening, Alicia and Jamie review the latest headlines. He looks up from his tablet. They're saying you and Turner might both testify before the ethics board next week. Alicia nods. Good. Jamie frowns. Good? You think this will help him? She takes a slow sip of coffee before answering. I'm not trying to help him. I'm trying to help the truth survive longer than the scandal. At home that night, Turner opens his laptop and begins writing again. Not to the press, not to Alicia, to the recruits at the police academy where he once trained. When I wore the badge, I thought it meant I was the law. Now I know it was supposed to mean I protect it. If you ever forget that difference, you'll end up like me, famous for all the wrong reasons. He sends it anonymously. No credit, no signature, just the message. At nearly the same hour, Alicia finishes signing her statement. Her pen moves slowly, precisely. When she's done, she places the document in an envelope and whispers, "Let this be the last one I have to write about hate." She seals it and sets it on the edge of her desk. Outside, thunder rumbles in the distance, not violent, just steady, like the sound of something heavy finally moving forward. By midnight, the rain stops. The streets glisten under lamplight. The courthouse stands quiet again, but the silence is no longer tension. It's waiting. Waiting for the next voice brave enough to fill it. The fifth day dawns cold and gray. No protests, no shouting, just the quiet hum of anticipation. Inside Atlanta Police Headquarters, reporters wait in the lobby, cameras poised toward a single door, the one leading to the disciplinary hearing. Today, Officer Mark Turner has to defend himself, or at least try to. Upstairs, in a small conference room, he sits between two lawyers. The table is bare except for a thin folder with his name on it. Across from him sits the review panel. 3 officers, 1 city attorney, and 1 civilian representative. A recorder blinks red. "Officer Turner," the attorney begins, "this proceeding will determine whether you are dismissed or reinstated. You may speak freely, but everything you say is on record." Turner nods. "I understand." The attorney leans back. "You've made several public statements since the incident. Some consider them admirable. Others call them rehearsed." He pauses. "So, which are they?" Turner swallows hard. "They're real." The room stays silent. He continues. "I said those things because I needed to. Not to clear my name, but to face what I did." One of the officers on the panel crosses his arms. "And what exactly did you do?" Turner looks down, his voice low. "I saw someone in a place of power and assumed she didn't belong. I used my badge to make that feeling sound official. That's what I did." No one speaks for a moment. Then the city attorney says, "So, are you saying you're guilty of discrimination?" "Yes," Turner says simply, "but not just against her, against what justice is supposed to mean." Outside, a small crowd waits, listening through open courthouse doors. TV screens replay his words from the live stream. Some shake their heads, others nod slowly. For the first time, the story isn't just about a bad cop. It's about how bias hides inside ordinary people. Meanwhile, across town, Judge Alicia Brown sits in her chambers, watching the hearing on mute. Jamie enters quietly, holding a coffee. "You're really not going?" She shakes her head. "No, the court doesn't belong in a circus." Jamie frowns. "But he's admitting everything. Shouldn't you be there?" Alicia finally looks at him. "Justice doesn't need an audience, Jamie. It needs endurance." Back at the hearing, Turner's lawyer clears his throat. "My client has expressed deep remorse. He has also volunteered to assist with police bias training programs." The city attorney interrupts. "Remorse doesn't erase misconduct." The room stiffens. Turner nods. "She's right." His lawyer looks startled. "Mark—" "No," Turner says firmly. "She's right. I don't want a defense. I want understanding." The panel exchanges uneasy glances. He continues, voice steady now. "I'm not here to save my job. I'm here because I need to be the last one who learns empathy this late." The civilian representative, a middle-aged woman with calm eyes, leans forward. "Why now, officer? Why not before?" Turner's eyes glisten. "Because before, I thought fairness was weakness. I thought being tough meant being right. Then I saw what calm strength actually looks like. And it wasn't me." At that exact moment, Alicia walks through the courthouse hallway. A few journalists call her name. "Your Honor, do you believe Officer Turner's apology?" She doesn't answer, but her eyes say enough. Measured, knowing, patient. Inside her office, she closes the blinds, sits, and opens a blank document. The header reads, Statement on Systemic Conduct. She begins to type, slowly, purposefully. Justice cannot thrive where power demands apologies instead of accountability. The goal is not punishment, but transformation. Let the law teach before it destroys. She stops, rereads it, then nods. She's not writing this for herself. She's writing it for what comes next. At the hearing, the chief examiner clears his throat. Officer Turner, the board will recess for 30 minutes before rendering a decision. As the panel exits, Turner stays seated. He stares at the table, hands trembling slightly. His lawyer leans in. You did good. Turner shakes his head. I did honest. That's different. During the break, a young female officer approaches him. Sir? He looks up. I just wanted to say, I watched what happened that day. It made me think about how I talk to people. He nods, speechless. She smiles faintly. Whatever happens, you changed something. Then she walks away. He exhales slowly. Maybe this is what redemption sounds like. Quiet, uncelebrated, but real. When the board returns, the lead examiner delivers the verdict. Officer Mark Turner, the panel finds sufficient grounds for termination due to misconduct in violation of departmental ethics. Turner closes his eyes. There it is. Final. But then the examiner continues. However, in light of your cooperation and demonstrated accountability, the board recommends your reassignment to training and reform programs under civilian oversight. Turner looks up. He can't believe it. He isn't fired. He's being reassigned to help fix the thing he broke. The examiner's tone softens. You will not wear a badge for now, but perhaps you can still serve the law by teaching others what you learned too late. Outside, reporters rush him. Officer Turner, is this justice? He stops on the courthouse steps, rain starting to fall again. No, he says softly. It's a beginning. The microphones capture it. Within hours, the phrase trends online. Had a beginning. That evening, Alicia receives a call from the department's ethics board. They inform her of the decision. She listens quietly, then says only 3 words. That was wise. Jamie looks up from his notes. So it's over? She shakes her head. No, Jamie, it's just starting to get interesting. Later that night, she receives an email from Turner. No apology this time, just a single sentence. Thank you for not yelling. Silence taught me louder. She reads it twice, smiles faintly, then closes her laptop. Outside her window, the rain finally stops. The city exhales with her. The morning news hits harder than the rain. Every channel, every headline carries the same story. Officer Turner reassigned. Judge Brown's silence still speaks. The decision splits the nation in 2. Some call it redemption. Others call it weakness. But everyone's talking. In a diner off Peachtree Street, an elderly black woman watches the screen behind the counter. First time I've seen a cop admit he was wrong, she says quietly. A man across the booth shakes his head. He shouldn't get a second chance. People died for less. A young waitress refills their coffee. She's been following the story too. You think maybe this is how it starts though? She asks. Not by firing people, but by teaching them? They fall silent. Because no one knows if that's hope talking or denial. At the courthouse, the crowd has changed. No longer angry protesters or furious reporters, just citizens curious enough to witness history in motion. They're not shouting, they're discussing. Alicia's clerk, Jamie, passes through them, noticing something strange. People aren't holding signs anymore. They're holding conversations. He smiles faintly. Quiet spreads faster than noise, he mutters. Inside her chambers, Judge Alicia Brown reads the morning paper. The headline feels heavier than usual. Judge Brown's influence inspires National Police Reform Petition. She sets it down, thinking. The power she never asked for is now rewriting things she never expected to touch. Jamie enters with his tablet. They're calling you the silent judge now. Alicia raises an eyebrow. Is that supposed to be an insult or a compliment? He grins. Both, I think. She leans back in her chair. Good. That means it's working. Across town, Mark Turner walks through the training facility for the first time. No uniform, just plain clothes, a visitor's badge clipped to his shirt. Recruits line the room. 20 officers fresh from the academy, all staring at him like a headline come to life. The instructor, Captain Renee Hollis, gestures to him. This is Mark Turner, she says. Some of you know him from the news. He's here today not as a cop, but as a reminder. A ripple moves through the room. Turner takes a breath. He steps forward. I used to think justice meant control, he begins. I thought power came from how loud I could be. Turns out it came from how quiet she was. The recruits listen. Some take notes, others just watch. He continues, when you wear that badge, you carry two things, authority and reflection. One tells people what to do, the other shows them who you are. His voice wavers, but he doesn't stop. If you forget the reflection, the authority becomes nothing but noise. The room goes still. Even Captain Hollis looks moved. For the first time since his suspension, Turner feels useful again. Not powerful, not forgiven, but necessary. Later that day, Alicia receives a package. No sender name, no return address. Inside is a small plaque engraved with a quote, "Justice doesn't shout, it listens." Beneath the quote, his initials, MT. Jamie sees it and frowns. He sent that? Alicia studies the plaque, her expression unreadable. Yes, and he meant it. She sets it on her shelf beside a stack of old law books. It fits there perfectly, silent, balanced, unassuming. By evening, the conversation has reached Washington. Senators mention her name in televised hearings. Activists use her image on posters. One anchor calls her the calm storm America didn't know it needed. But Alicia avoids interviews. She turns down talk shows, podcasts, documentaries. She keeps her focus where it belongs, inside the courtroom. Because she knows the danger of becoming an icon. Icons inspire people to worship, not to act. And Alicia Brown doesn't want followers. She wants witnesses. That night, the city glows under streetlights and camera flashes. A television studio airs a live panel debate. Half the guests defend the decision to reassign Turner. The others demand harsher punishment. An activist named Tracy Morgan speaks last. Look, firing him doesn't fix the system that made him. Judge Brown didn't choose mercy. She chose education. And maybe that's the first real justice we've seen in years. The audience claps softly. Not excitement, agreement, understanding. At the same time, Turner sits alone in his small apartment watching the same broadcast. When Tracy says those words, she chose education, he lowers his head. She did, he whispers. He walks to his desk and opens a small notebook. Inside he writes, Lesson 1, power is borrowed. Lesson 2, respect is earned. Lesson 3, silence can teach. He closes the book and stares out the window at the faint light of the courthouse downtown. For the first time in years, he doesn't feel like hiding. Meanwhile, Alicia drives home after a long day. The city outside her car window looks the same. Traffic lights, pedestrians, the usual rhythm, but something in the air feels different, lighter. She stops at a red light. On the sidewalk, a little girl holds her mother's hand, pointing at a newspaper stand with Alicia's photo on the cover. Mom, that's the lady who didn't yell, right? Her mother nods. Yes, honey, that's the one. The girl smiles. She's brave. Alicia watches them as the light turns green. She drives off quietly, but inside, something softens. Maybe bravery isn't noise at all. Maybe it's the courage to stay still when the world demands a reaction. That night, she opens her journal for the first time in months. She writes one sentence. Justice begins when silence stops being mistaken for surrender. Then she closes it and turns off the light. Outside, the city hums. Not in chaos this time, but in balance. The noise that once divided people now sounds like unity. And somewhere, beneath all of it, her voice, calm, patient, unwavering, still guides it forward. 7 days have passed. A week since a courthouse became the stage for a nation's reckoning. And yet, inside Judge Alicia Brown's mind, the noise hasn't stopped. It's just learned to whisper. She sits at her desk, flipping through reports from the ethics board. Her name appears in every document not as a witness, but as a symbol. She hates that word. Symbols inspire movements, yes, but they also cage people inside perfection. And Alicia Brown refuses to be anyone's saint. Her clerk Jamie walks in, holding a letter. It's from Internal Affairs, he says. She raises an eyebrow. They're still not done? He shakes his head. They're done with Turner. This one's for you. She opens it. Inside, a formal summons. You are requested to appear before the Ethics Committee to testify in person regarding procedural reform and the Turner case. Jamie frowns. They're calling you in? Why? She reads the next line aloud. For the record, the public response has placed this court under scrutiny for inconsistent use of judicial restraint. She exhales sharply. They're questioning my silence. Jamie mutters, they wouldn't dare. They would, she says calmly. Power always fears what it doesn't understand. Across town, Mark Turner receives the same news. He's in the middle of a class at the training facility when Captain Renee Hollis enters with a clipboard. Turner, she says, pack up, you're being called to testify again, this time with Judge Brown. He freezes. What for? She looks at him carefully. Public transparency hearing. They want to see if her decision to stay silent influenced your case. He nods slowly, heart pounding. He hasn't seen her since that day in court. The idea of standing across from her again feels like judgment all over again. That afternoon, Alicia steps into the courthouse elevator, holding the summons. The mirrored walls reflect her face back at her, calm but tired. For a second, she almost doesn't recognize herself. She whispers, 7 days, 7 lessons. As the elevator rises, she mentally repeats them. Silence, dignity, reflection, consequence, compassion, truth, balance. All pieces of the same puzzle. When the doors open, reporters swarm. Judge Brown, why the hearing? Do you think your silence was a mistake? Will you testify against Officer Turner? She keeps walking. She doesn't owe sound to chaos. The Ethics Committee hearing room is bright and modern, a wall of glass overlooking the city, microphones lined neatly across a long oak table. At one end sits Alicia. At the other, Turner. No robes, no badges. Just 2 people, human, equal. The chairwoman, Senator Morgan, clears her throat. This hearing concerns public trust in the justice system following the Turner incident. We are not here to punish, but to understand. Alicia nods once. Turner does the same. The first question comes quickly. Judge Brown, Morgan says, why did you choose silence over confrontation that day? Alicia folds her hands. Because shouting convinces no one. Silence forces everyone to listen, even the guilty. The senator leans forward. Do you believe that silence is justice? No, Alicia replies. It's preparation for it. The room murmurs. A journalist scribbles furiously. Now it's Turner's turn. Officer Turner, do you believe the judge's restraint helped you? He looks at Alicia, then back at the panel. It didn't help me, he says softly. It exposed me. The senator frowns. Explain. Turner continues. When she didn't yell, I didn't have anywhere to hide. No noise to drown in, no anger to fight back against. Just me, my words, and the truth. Alicia's eyes meet his. He holds her gaze, steady, honest, unflinching. For the first time, there's no guilt there. Just understanding. The senator clears her throat again. Judge Brown, there's been concern that your handling of the situation was unorthodox. Alicia nods. Justice evolves. If it doesn't, it becomes punishment, not progress. The senator leans back, impressed. And Officer Turner, what have you learned since your reassignment? He takes a deep breath. That justice isn't about balance between power and mercy. It's about remembering that both sides are human. A long pause follows. Then the senator smiles faintly. This country could use more of that thinking. After the hearing, the crowd outside erupts with flashbulbs and questions. Neither of them stops to answer. But this time, something has changed. They walk out side by side, the cop and the judge, no longer enemies, not quite allies, but proof that justice can grow from its own mistakes. That evening, Alicia returns home exhausted. She turns on the TV for the first time in days. Every channel shows clips from the hearing. Turner's quote loops again and again. When she didn't yell, I didn't have anywhere to hide. She sits quietly, letting the words replay. For once, the story doesn't feel like hers anymore. It belongs to everyone now. Later that night, she receives a message. It's from Turner, just 2 lines. I don't want to escape what I did. I just want to learn how to build what I broke. She stares at the screen, the glow reflecting in her eyes. Then she types a reply. Then start tomorrow, courtroom 3B, 9 a.m. sharp. She doesn't explain further. She doesn't need to. The next morning, as the sun rises, she steps into courtroom 3B, the same place it all began. This time, the seats are filled with police trainees, reporters, and community leaders. At the front stands Turner, nervous but ready. She gestures toward him. This, she says to the room, is what accountability looks like. Not destruction, reconstruction. Turner looks up, meeting her gaze again. She nods once. He nods back. No more shouting, no more silence, just understanding. And that's where justice begins again. The courtroom is full again. Rows of police trainees, reporters, and quiet citizens sit shoulder to shoulder, whispering. Every camera is pointed toward the bench. No one knows why they're here. No one knows what's about to happen. And then Judge Alicia Brown walks in. She isn't wearing her robe, just a black blazer and calm eyes. She takes her seat behind the bench. Moments later, the doors open again. Mark Turner enters. Plain suit. No badge. No weapon. Just a man carrying a folder and a past he can't erase. A hush sweeps across the room. Alicia looks up. "Mr. Turner," she says evenly, "thank you for coming." He nods once, voice low. "You said 9 sharp. I wasn't going to risk being late to my own lesson." The courtroom chuckles softly. Alicia doesn't. "This isn't a trial," she says. "This is understanding in session." She turns to the audience. "Most of you came here looking for justice, but what you're about to see is harder than that. You're about to see accountability." She gestures toward Turner. "This man wronged me. He humiliated me, and then he did something rarer than apology. He changed." A camera light flickers. A reporter whispers to another, "Is this being televised?" It is. Every second. Live. Alicia stands. "Mr. Turner," she says, "would you please tell this room what you've learned since last week?" He clears his throat, nervous at first. "I learned that forgiveness isn't given, it's earned. And I learned that guilt doesn't go away. It just becomes fuel if you use it right." He looks at the recruits in the front row. "When you put on that uniform, you think you're becoming something bigger. But if you lose sight of the people you serve, you're not protecting them. You're protecting yourself from the truth." Alicia watches closely. He continues. "I used to believe silence was weakness, that if someone didn't shout back, I'd won. But when Judge Brown didn't shout, I realized she'd already beaten me, because she made me hear myself." Alicia finally speaks. "And what did you hear, Mr. Turner?" He swallows. "Fear, pride, every ugly thing I used to hide behind my badge." The room goes silent. From the back, a reporter blurts, "Do you think you deserve this chance, Officer Turner?" He looks straight at the man. "No," he says. "That's why I'm here, because justice isn't about what I deserve. It's about what I do next." Alicia steps closer. "And what is next?" He opens the folder in his hands. Inside are handwritten notes, photos, and training proposals. "I started building a course," he says, "for every new recruit. Bias recognition, de-escalation, ethics." He sets the folder on the bench. "It's called the Brown Curriculum." Gasps ripple through the crowd. Even Jamie, standing off to the side, looks stunned. Alicia raises an eyebrow. "You used my name?" Turner nods slowly. "With permission, of course, but I wanted them to remember the day silence changed everything." Alicia studies the folder, flipping through the pages. The content is raw, unpolished, but honest. Real stories, real lessons. Each section begins with one quote, "The law isn't a gun, it's a mirror." She sets it down gently. "This is good work," she says. "But work isn't redemption, it's maintenance." Turner nods. "I know. Redemption's not a finish line, it's a treadmill." A quiet laugh spreads through the room. Even Alicia allows a faint smile. She turns to the audience again. "This is why we're here. Justice isn't about ending someone. It's about repairing what was broken, even if it takes a lifetime." She looks back at Turner. "You've taken your first step. Don't stop walking." He bows his head. "I won't." As she prepares to adjourn, a young trainee raises his hand. "Your Honor?" Alicia looks at him. "Yes?" The boy hesitates, nervous. "Do you forgive him?" The room holds its breath. Even Turner freezes. Alicia's eyes soften. "Forgiveness isn't a verdict," she says. "It's a process. And some days, the process is enough." The trainee nods slowly, understanding more than he expected to. When the hearing ends, the cameras follow Alicia as she leaves the bench. Turner gathers his folder, approaches her quietly. "Judge Brown," he says. She holds up a hand. "No need, I heard you." He exhales. "Thank you for not giving up on me." She looks him in the eye. "I didn't do it for you. I did it for everyone who thought silence was weakness." He nods. I won't forget that. Outside, the crowd erupts in applause as the doors open. No anger this time, no division, just respect. Alicia walks down the courthouse steps, rain glistening on the marble. Reporters call after her. Judge Brown, what does today mean for justice in America? She pauses, turns slightly and says, Justice isn't a sound, it's a rhythm. And today we found the beat again. Then she walks away. Inside, Turner stays behind for a moment, staring at the empty courtroom. He traces his fingers over the wooden bench where she sat. The place that once ended his pride now feels like where his life finally began. He whispers quietly, 7 days ago, I lost everything. Today, I found purpose. That night, the clip of the hearing floods social media. Millions watch, millions share, and millions hear her final words. Justice isn't a sound, it's a rhythm. The phrase trends worldwide, not as outrage, as awakening. For the first time in a long time, the country doesn't argue. It listens. Morning light spills through the courthouse windows, pale and steady. The city outside is calmer now. No protests, no noise, just recovery, quiet, cautious, collective. Inside her chambers, Judge Alicia Brown reviews a letter that arrived earlier that morning. No sender, just a return address, the Police Reform Office. She opens it carefully. Inside is a single line, written in careful handwriting. Before I can teach others, I need to tell you everything. MT. She sets the letter down slowly. Jamie looks up from his desk. Another one from him? She nods. But this one's different. He frowns. Different how? She looks toward the window, voice low. It sounds like a man trying to stop running. Across the city, Mark Turner sits alone in a small community hall. The room smells faintly of dust and coffee. The walls are lined with posters about reform, empathy, equality, words he used to roll his eyes at. Now he reads every one of them. On the table in front of him lies a folded file. It's old, creased, and marked confidential. A knock at the door. Come in, he says quietly. Alicia steps inside. No robe, no cameras, just her. For a moment, neither speaks. The air between them feels heavier than before. Not tense, just honest. He gestures toward the chair opposite him. Thank you for coming. She sits. I don't usually meet privately with former defendants. I'm not a defendant anymore, he says softly. Just someone trying to finish what he started. He slides the file toward her. It's about an arrest I made 3 years ago. A black teenager named Darius Hill, 16 years old. I charged him with assaulting an officer. She opens the file, scanning the paperwork. Her brow tightens. There's no assault report here. There wasn't one, he admits. I lied. Her eyes lift sharply. He continues before she can speak. I was angry. He talked back to me during a stop. I lost my temper, pushed him, and when he tried to get up, I hit him. Then I made it sound like he started it. Alicia closes the file. The silence that follows is suffocating. He looks at his hands. He got 6 months in juvenile detention. I heard he dropped out of school afterward. Never came back. Alicia's voice is steady but cold. Why are you telling me this now? He takes a long breath. Because I've been talking about change, teaching recruits about integrity, but none of it means anything if I don't clean up what I buried. She leans forward slightly. And what do you expect from me? He meets her gaze. I want to reopen the case. I want to confess on record. Her eyes search his for a long moment. You realize that could lead to criminal charges. He nods. I know. But maybe it's time I stood on the other side of the bench. The afternoon sun moves across the floor inch by inch as neither of them speaks. Finally, Alicia says quietly, Do you want forgiveness? He shakes his head. No. I want the truth to breathe again. Alicia exhales slowly. You understand what this means for your life, your family? I already lost my career, he interrupts. This isn't about losing. It's about earning. She studies him for a long moment, then nods. All right, I'll see what can be done. He looks almost relieved. Almost. Thank you, he says softly. She stands. Don't thank me. You'll wish I said no once this starts. He nods again, quietly. I probably will. Later that evening, Alicia returns to her office and pulls out the Darius Hill case file from the archives. Jamie watches as she spreads the papers across her desk. Who's Darius Hill? He asks. She replies without looking up. Someone whose story never reached daylight. Jamie reads over her shoulder. This case is sealed. If you move to reopen it, the department will come after you, not him. Alicia nods. I know. Then why risk it? She closes the file and looks up at him. Because justice doesn't retire when the cameras turn off. That night, she can't sleep. She walks through her apartment barefoot, the city lights reflecting off the glass walls. She pours herself a glass of water, but doesn't drink it. Her mind replays Turner's words. I hit him. I lied. For the first time in days, her calm cracks. She leans against the counter, eyes closed, whispering, how many more Darius Hills are still waiting to be heard? The question hangs in the air, unanswered. Meanwhile, Turner sits at his desk writing a statement for the ethics board. His handwriting is slow, deliberate. To those I've harmed, I can't undo the pain I caused, but I can make sure the system that let me do it never looks away again. He signs it and exhales. He doesn't feel lighter, just ready. The next morning, Alicia files an official motion to unseal the Darius Hill case. The clerk stares at the form. Judge Brown, are you sure you want to do this? It'll bring heat from every direction. She slides the file across the counter. Then let them burn. The clerk blinks. Excuse me? Alicia's eyes narrow. Sometimes the fire isn't punishment, it's purification. As she leaves the courthouse, her phone buzzes. A new message from Turner. Thank you for letting the truth breathe again. She doesn't reply. She just looks up at the courthouse steps glowing under morning light, the same steps where humiliation began, and where somehow justice has started to heal itself. That night, the story leaks. Former officer confesses to wrongful conviction. Judge Brown files motion to reopen case. The country erupts again, but this time the noise isn't outrage. It's relief. Because for the first time in a long time, truth didn't come from anger. It came from honesty. And that's louder than anything. The courthouse hasn't been this crowded in years. Reporters flood the marble steps, microphones raised like weapons, cameras flashing under a gray sky. Every screen in the country shows the same headline. Judge Brown reopens, case against system. Confession shocks police department. Inside, the tension is thick enough to choke on. Every bench is filled. Students, activists, retired judges, everyone wants to witness what happens when justice stops following orders. At the front of the courtroom, Judge Alicia Brown takes her seat. No smile, no speech, just focus. In the front row sits Mark Turner, hands folded, jaw tight. He's not here to speak, not yet. He's here to listen to the story he wrote years ago, now read aloud in public for the first time. The clerk calls it out. State of Georgia versus Darius Hill. Motion to vacate prior conviction. A hush falls. Alicia adjusts her glasses, glancing at the boy sitting quietly at the defense table. Not a boy anymore, now a man in his early 20s, Darius Hill. The record said, juvenile offender. The truth says, survivor. He sits still, eyes fixed on the bench, expression unreadable. Alicia nods to the prosecutor. Proceed. The state's attorney stands, shifting uncomfortably. Your Honor, the department believes reopening this case is highly irregular. The officer in question has already faced disciplinary action. Alicia's tone is ice. This court isn't concerned with comfort, counselor. It's concerned with correction. He clears his throat, flustered. Yes, Your Honor, but we must consider— You'll consider the law, she interrupts. Everything else is noise, the courtroom murmurs. Jamie, sitting near the clerk's desk, can't help but smile. That's the Alicia the world has been waiting for. Then she looks at Turner. Officer Turner, please approach. He stands slowly, walking toward the witness stand. Every eye follows him. Cameras, lawyers, strangers. He's no longer the man behind a badge. He's the man behind a confession. Alicia looks down from the bench. You understand that your previous testimony in this case was false? Yes, Your Honor. And that this hearing may result in criminal liability? Yes. She studies him for a long, silent moment. Then let's make it worth it. The court stenographer begins typing. Describe the incident, Alicia orders. Turner exhales. I stopped Darius Hill outside a convenience store. He had a backpack. I told him to take it off. He asked why. I said, don't talk back. He said, I didn't do anything. And that's when I lost control. He closes his eyes briefly. I pushed him. He fell. He hit his head on the pavement. Then I arrested him for resisting. Gasps ripple through the room. Darius looks down at the floor, fists clenched. Turner's voice cracks. I wrote that he swung first. He didn't. I just couldn't stand being challenged by a kid who looked like everything I refused to understand. Alicia's voice is quiet but sharp. And what did you understand now? He meets her gaze. That fear doesn't make you right. It makes you dangerous. The words hang in the air. The courtroom is silent except for the soft clacking of the stenographer's keys. Alicia looks to Darius. Mr. Hill, do you wish to make a statement? He stands slowly, voice trembling but strong. I lost everything because of one report. My record, my college chance, my mom's trust. All because someone wrote down a lie that sounded official. He looks at Turner. And now you're saying sorry? Turner nods once. Yes, but I don't expect you to forgive me. Darius shakes his head. I don't forgive you, but I'm glad the world knows what you did. He sits. The words hit harder than any sentence could. After a long silence, Alicia looks to the state attorney. Do you have any objection to vacating the prior conviction? He hesitates, then lowers his head. No, Your Honor. Alicia nods slowly. Then let the record reflect that the conviction against Darius Hill is hereby vacated and expunged, effective immediately. She lifts the gavel. Justice delayed, she says, but not denied. The sound of wood striking wood echoes like thunder. The crowd erupts. Reporters whisper into microphones. Cameras flash. But amid the noise, Alicia notices something no one else does. Turner wiping his eyes. Not from relief, from release. After court, Darius walks toward Alicia's chambers. She greets him with a small nod. He hesitates. Thank you, Judge Brown. You should thank yourself, she replies, for surviving long enough to see this day. He smiles faintly. Do you think it changes anything? She thinks for a moment. Not everything, but it changes the story. And that's how change starts. Later that evening, Turner stands on the courthouse steps, the crowd gone, the sky dimming to orange. Alicia joins him. They stand in silence for a long time. Finally, he speaks. He walked out smiling. I didn't think that was possible. Alicia glances at him. It wasn't the smile you gave him that mattered. It was the truth. He nods. I'm ready to face whatever comes next. You already are, she says. He looks at her, eyes tired but clear. Do you think redemption is real, Judge? She takes a deep breath. Redemption isn't real, but responsibility is. And if you live it long enough, sometimes it feels like the same thing. He nods quietly. Then I'll keep living it. That night, news outlets call it the day justice spoke. But Alicia knows better. Justice didn't speak. It listened to a man's confession, a boy's truth, and a system learning how to breathe again. And for the first time in a week, she sleeps without the weight of silence pressing on her chest. It doesn't take long. Less than 24 hours after the verdict, the storm hits. Headlines scream across every screen in America. Judge Brown overstepped authority. Rogue judge breaks the system she swore to protect. Cop's confession sparks political crisis. By sunrise, the courthouse steps are swarmed again. This time, not with candles or applause, but with cameras and accusations. Voices clash like thunder. Some chant her name with pride. Others spit it with venom. Inside, Judge Alicia Brown sits behind her desk, reading the morning paper. Her face doesn't move, but her eyes do. Scanning each line, each lie, each spin. Jamie bursts in. They're calling for an inquiry, Judge. Who's they? She asks without looking up. The Attorney General's office. They want a full review of your conduct. She folds the paper neatly. I expected them sooner. Jamie frowns. You sound calm. They're coming after you. She looks out the window, voice steady. They've always been coming after me. They just finally found a reason. Across town, Mark Turner wakes to a dozen missed calls and a wall of headlines. His inbox is flooded. Praise, hate, threats, invitations. Every channel wants an interview. Every blog wants his face. He scrolls until he can't anymore. Then he switches off the phone. Silence. Finally, silence. But it doesn't last. A knock at the door. Captain Renee Hollis stands outside, holding a folder. Mark, she says softly, they're opening an investigation into your conduct, all of it. He nods. I figured. She hesitates. This time it's not internal. The state's involved. He leans against the wall. So it's official. I'm the lesson and the warning. Renee sighs. They're protecting the badge, not the truth. You know that. He nods again, quiet. I'll take the hit if it means she doesn't. At the courthouse, Alicia meets with her superior, Chief Justice Alden, a man who looks like he hasn't smiled since the last century. He sits behind his mahogany desk, fingers steepled, eyes sharp. "Judge Brown," he begins, "I'm under immense pressure to explain your actions. Why reopen a sealed case without clearance?" "Because the truth doesn't ask for permission," she answers. His jaw tightens. "You're not here to make statements. You're here to follow process." She leans forward. "Process protected a lie for 3 years. If that's your system, maybe it needs breaking." His tone turns icy. "Watch your words, Judge. The board is considering a temporary suspension pending review." Alicia stands. "Do what you need to. But if you think silence is safer than honesty, you haven't been paying attention." She turns and walks out. He doesn't stop her. He just watches, jaw clenched, afraid of a woman who doesn't flinch. By noon, the news cycle turns uglier. Anchors debate her motives. Pundits question her integrity. A headline flashes. Anonymous sources claim Judge Brown sought fame. Jamie barges into her office again. "Your Honor, this is insane. They're twisting everything you did." Alicia keeps typing. "What are you writing?" "My statement, the only one that matters." He leans closer. "Are you sure it's wise to speak now?" She stops typing, looks up. "No, it's necessary." Meanwhile, Turner walks to the courthouse through a maze of reporters. Questions fire like bullets. "Do you regret confessing? Did Judge Brown manipulate you? Are you in contact with her?" He says nothing, just keeps walking, but every step feels heavier than the last. Inside, he finds her waiting in the empty courtroom, the same place their story began. "Judge Brown," he says quietly. She looks up. "You shouldn't be here. You've already given them enough ammunition." He shakes his head. "They're not after me anymore. They're after you." She closes her file slowly. "They always were." He steps closer. "If this hearing costs you your career, then it's the right cost," she cuts in. "Justice that doesn't risk anything isn't justice. It's theater." He hesitates. "You could step down. Let it blow over." She almost smiles. "I didn't survive this long to retire when things get loud." That evening, a leaked memo from the governor's office hits the internet. "Recommend immediate review of Judge Brown's authority. Consider forced leave." Social media explodes. Hashtag stand with Judge Brown trends within hours. So does the opposite. Hashtag remove Brown now. 2 movements, 2 Americas, 1 woman standing in the middle. In a small studio downtown, a TV host addresses the nation. "Judge Brown is either the hero we need or the problem we can't control." The camera pans to a split screen, her calm face on one side, the courthouse riot footage on the other. "She broke protocol," the host continues, "but maybe protocol needed breaking." At home, Alicia sits in the dark, laptop screen glowing. Her cursor blinks over the final line of her statement. "I didn't break the system. I revealed it." She reads it twice, then hits send. Hours later, it's everywhere. Her statement floods the internet, read aloud by anchors, reposted by millions. For the first time, the narrative shifts again. People don't see a rogue judge anymore. They see a mirror. Turner watches from his apartment, whispering the line under his breath. "I didn't break the system. I revealed it." He smiles faintly. She's still teaching. The next morning, Alicia arrives at the courthouse. No cameras, no protesters, just silence. Jamie waits at the steps, holding a fresh newspaper. The headline reads, "Judge Brown's statement wins public support. Governor backs down." He grins. "You did it." She shakes her head. "No, we survived. That's different." She looks up at the courthouse dome, sunlight catching its edges. Now maybe the real work can begin. Night falls softly over Atlanta. The courthouse lights fade one by one until the city hums in a quiet rhythm again. The chaos of the past week has dulled into silence. Not peace, just exhaustion. In her apartment, Judge Alicia Brown sits on the floor beside the window, shoes off, coffee untouched. Her robe hangs on the chair across the room, still wet from the rain earlier. The newspaper with her statement printed across the front lies on the table. "I didn't break the system. I revealed it." She reads the line again, this time aloud. It doesn't sound like defiance anymore. It sounds like truth, the kind that costs too much to say twice. Her phone buzzes. A single text. "You awake?" MT. She stares at the screen for a moment, debating. Then she types back, "Barely." A few seconds pass before another message appears. There's a cafe near the river. No press, no noise. Meet me? Alicia exhales. It's reckless, improper, and exactly what she needs. She grabs her coat. The cafe sits tucked between two old warehouses by the water. Dim lights, empty tables, the smell of rain and burnt coffee. When she walks in, Mark Turner is already there, sitting near the window. No cameras, no uniforms, just two people who've spent the last week carrying the weight of a country's conscience. He stands when he sees her. Judge Brown. Mark, she corrects. They sit. Neither speaks for a moment. The only sound is the slow hum of jazz from a broken speaker in the corner. He finally breaks the silence. I watched your statement. She smirks faintly. I heard. He looks down at his hands. You know they're still investigating me. I might still lose everything. She tilts her head. You already lost what didn't matter. He chuckles softly. You always know exactly how to cut through. It's my job, she replies. He shakes his head. No, your job is to judge. What you do is remind people what truth sounds like. For the first time that night, she smiles. Small, tired, real. He sips his coffee and leans back. Do you ever wonder if it was worth it? Which part? All of it. The noise, the threats, the politics. Alicia stares out the window at the dark river. Her reflection looks older than she remembers. Every day, she admits. But then I remember the kid, Darius. He walked out free, and that's enough. Turner nods slowly. I've been thinking about him, too. He hesitates. I wrote him a letter. She turns to him. Did you send it? He shakes his head. Not yet. I don't think I have the right to. She studies him carefully. Maybe you don't, but you will eventually. Forgiveness isn't a door you walk through, it's a hallway you crawl. He nods, eyes low. I'm still crawling. Then keep moving, she says quietly. Crawling forward is still progress. Minutes pass in silence. It's not awkward. It's peaceful, like two people finally allowed to breathe in the same world again. Alicia takes a deep breath. You know, when I first saw you in that lobby, I wanted to hate you. He looks at her, surprised. I don't blame you. I tried, she says. But hate's lazy. It doesn't teach. It doesn't build. He nods. I think I used to live on hate. It felt easier than shame. She turns to him. And now? He takes a long sip of coffee before answering. Now shame feels honest. It hurts, but it keeps me human. She leans back, looking at him. Maybe that's your penance, to stay human. He smiles faintly. That's harder than it sounds. Everything real is, she replies. Outside, the rain starts again. Light, steady, rhythmic. People rush past the window with umbrellas, heads down, moving fast. Neither of them moves. Turner glances at the empty street. You know, they'll probably twist this. Tomorrow's headlines will say I'm trying to manipulate you again. Alicia shrugs. Let them write their fiction. We already told the truth. He looks at her, voice quieter now. Do you ever get tired of being the one who's right? She laughs softly. I'm not always right. I'm just not afraid of being wrong in public. The clock ticks past midnight. The cafe owner yawns in the back, wiping down tables. Turner stands, putting on his jacket. I should go before someone recognizes us. Alicia nods. He pauses at the door. Thank you, he says quietly, for everything. She looks up. I didn't do it for you. He smiles faintly. I know. That's why it worked. He leaves, the bell above the door ringing softly behind him. Alicia stays seated, staring at the river. Raindrops slide down the window like falling seconds. She whispers to herself, justice without humanity is nothing but math. The line lingers in the air, fragile and true. She stands, puts on her coat, and steps outside into the rain. No cameras, no applause, just the city breathing again. And for the first time in days, she feels light. The rain has stopped, but the world still smells like it. Clean, quiet, and uncertain. Morning light creeps through the courthouse blinds. Inside her chambers, Judge Alicia Brown sits at her desk, robe folded beside her, a cup of coffee growing cold. She hasn't spoken since dawn. The last few days have felt like years. The hearings, the confession, the backlash, the silence that followed like a shadow. Now, for the first time, the courthouse feels peaceful. Too peaceful. Jamie knocks softly and enters. You're early, he says. So are you, she replies. He grins. Habit. Everyone's still talking about your statement, by the way. Alicia sighs. Let them talk. Maybe words will do what shouting never could. He hesitates, then sets a newspaper on her desk. The headline reads, Judge Brown nominated for Federal Oversight Committee. She blinks, surprised. Is this real? Jamie nods. They want you to lead the first independent police reform board in the state. Alicia leans back, silent. You don't look happy, Jamie says. I'm not sure happiness is the word for this, she answers quietly. Responsibility feels heavier than joy. Across town, Mark Turner stands in front of a classroom of recruits. The walls are bare except for one phrase written on the whiteboard in bold letters. The law isn't a gun, it's a mirror. 20 pairs of eyes stare back at him, young, eager, nervous. He starts slowly. Most of you signed up because you wanted to protect people, but protecting doesn't mean controlling. It means listening. He walks between the desks. When I wore this badge, I thought it made me right, but all it did was make me loud. A few recruits exchange glances. Turner continues. Every uniform you wear reflects who you already are. If that reflection's ugly, the badge won't fix it. It'll amplify it. He pauses. I used to be that man. And the woman I humiliated, Judge Alicia Brown, she didn't yell. She didn't fight. She just held up the mirror. The room stays silent. He lets it. Learn from me, he finishes quietly, so no one has to learn from you. When the class ends, one recruit lingers behind. Officer Turner, she says softly, my brother was arrested last year for something he didn't do. He still can't find a job. Your story, it gave my mom hope. He nods, eyes lowered. That means more than you know. As she leaves, Turner stands alone in the empty room. For the first time, he doesn't feel like an outcast. He feels like a beginning. That afternoon, Alicia visits the small riverside cafe again. The same place where they met. It's quiet, sunlight dancing off the water. She sits at the same table, opens her notebook, and begins to write. Change doesn't start in a courtroom. It starts in discomfort. It begins when silence becomes unbearable and ends when we finally decide to listen. She closes the notebook and exhales slowly. A faint reflection catches her eye. In the window, the city skyline mirrored against the river. She studies it. Buildings, bridges, clouds, all upside down, but still beautiful. Maybe, she thinks, that's what change really is. Seeing the world flipped and learning to find beauty in it anyway. That evening, a letter arrives at her apartment. No return address, just a neat fold and a faint coffee stain on the edge. She opens it. Dear Judge Brown, you were right. I sent the letter to Darius. He wrote back. He said he doesn't forgive me, but he hopes I keep trying. For the first time in my life, that's enough. Mark. Alicia reads it twice, then sets it beside her lamp. The light catches the paper, turning the ink into silver. She smiles faintly. Maybe forgiveness doesn't need to be granted. Maybe it just needs to be acknowledged. The next day, she walks through the courthouse halls. Everywhere she goes, people nod respectfully. Clerks, guards, strangers. But she notices something different now. It's not fear, it's recognition. She stops by courtroom 3B, the place where everything began. It's empty now, still, peaceful. She walks to the bench, places her hand on the wood, and whispers, "Thank you." Not to herself, not to Turner, but to the silence that never stopped teaching her. Outside, the city feels alive again. Children play by the fountain, vendors laugh on street corners. Life finally unpaused. As she steps into the sunlight, Jamie catches up with her. They confirmed your nomination, he says breathlessly. First public hearings next week. Alicia smiles faintly. Then I guess we start again. He grins. Same fight, new battlefield? She nods. Always. They walk down the courthouse steps together, the world buzzing softly around them. Not angry, not divided, just awake. That night, Turner sits on his balcony, staring at the skyline. He remembers every mistake, every scar, every face. But now, instead of shame, he feels something else. Purpose. He whispers to himself, people used to see me as the problem. Maybe that's what made me the solution. The city hums beneath him, and somewhere in the distance, a church bell rings. 12 days, 12 lessons. He closes his eyes, lets the sound wash over him. And across the city, Alicia stands by her window, watching the same moon. Different lives, same reflection. For the first time in a long time, the world doesn't feel broken. It feels unfinished. And that's enough. The 13th day dawns with a strange stillness. No protests, no cameras, just calm skies over a city still learning how to breathe again. Inside the state capitol, a large marble hall fills slowly with people, lawmakers, officers, journalists, and citizens. At the front stands a long wooden table lined with microphones and nameplates. In the center, Judge Alicia Brown, the woman whose silence changed everything. As she adjusts her notes, flashbulbs flicker across her face. She doesn't flinch. She stood before worse. Across town, in a small classroom, Mark Turner prepares for another session with new recruits. The board behind him reads, Day 1, Empathy and Responsibility. He's nervous, though he hides it well. He's no longer teaching procedure, but he's teaching perspective, something the academy never taught him. He looks out at the young faces staring back, then glances down at the bracelet around his wrist, a small silver band engraved with 3 words, Listen, Reflect, Serve, the motto of his new life. At the Capitol, the committee chair clears his throat. Judge Brown, the nation is watching. We ask you to share your recommendations for police reform and ethical oversight. Alicia looks out across the hall, hundreds of eyes on her, waiting for words that could either heal or divide. She takes a deep breath and begins. When I became a judge, I thought justice lived inside these walls, she says softly. But justice doesn't live in buildings. It lives in how we treat each other when no one's watching. The room goes silent. Her voice is calm but full of gravity. I've seen good officers lose their way because they were trained to follow orders, not conscience. I've seen civilians lose faith because the law looked like punishment, not protection. She pauses, her eyes sweeping across the crowd. And I've seen men like Mark Turner, broken by the power they thought defined them, become proof that reflection is stronger than control. Gasps ripple through the audience. She continues. So I propose this. Every officer in this state, before receiving a badge, must complete empathy and bias training, taught not by lawyers, not by politicians, but by the people they serve. Her words hang in the air like a challenge. Because you cannot protect a world you refuse to understand. Applause begins, slow, then rising. Even the committee chair joins in. He leans toward his microphone. Judge Brown, this proposal, it's bold. Some would call it radical. Alicia meets his eyes. Good. Justice should always feel radical to those who have grown comfortable with imbalance. The applause swells. At that same moment, Turner's class finishes their morning session. A young recruit raises his hand. Sir, can I ask something? Sure, Turner says. Do you really think people like us can change anything? The system's huge. Turner smiles faintly. You can't change the system. You change yourself. And the system follows. Because systems don't exist without people to hide behind them. He writes something on the board. Be the proof that justice can evolve. The recruits stare at the words in silence. He caps the marker and says quietly, That's your real oath. Back at the Capitol, Alicia finishes her statement. Reporters shout questions, flashes blind the room. She doesn't answer any of them. Instead, she gathers her notes and walks down the marble steps into the bright sunlight outside. Jamie catches up, breathless. You did it. They're saying the bill will go through. Alicia smiles faintly. Then it's not just my story anymore. It's everyone's. She looks up at the sky, clear, endless, forgiving. That evening, she drives through the city quietly. Everywhere she goes, she sees small changes. Officers greeting civilians with respect. People holding doors for strangers. Smiles where tension used to live. It's not perfection, it's progress. Her car stops at a red light near the training center. Through the glass doors, she spots Turner finishing his class. He's laughing with the recruits, light in a way she's never seen before. When he notices her car, he smiles and gives a small nod. She returns it. No words needed. 2 people who once stood on opposite sides of a courtroom now share the same purpose. 2 reflections of what justice looks like when it learns to grow. Later that night, Alicia walks along the riverbank alone. The city's reflection dances in the water, crooked but beautiful. She thinks about every choice, every risk, every silence. A soft voice behind her breaks the quiet. I thought I'd find you here. She turns. It's Turner. He walks beside her, hands in his pockets. They passed the first motion, he says. Unanimous vote. Alicia stops, looking out at the skyline. Good. Then maybe the city finally found its rhythm. He chuckles softly. Justice isn't a sound, remember? She smiles. It's a rhythm. And now it's playing in tune. They stand side by side, watching the lights shimmer across the river. After a moment, Turner says quietly, "I got Darius's second letter today." Alicia looks at him, curious. "What did he say?" "He said he's starting community college next month, criminal justice major." Alicia blinks, then smiles slowly. "Of course he is." Turner laughs softly. "He said he wants to make sure no one ever writes lies into the law again." Alicia's eyes glisten. Then maybe we both did something right. They stand in silence, the city alive around them. No anger, no guilt, just quiet understanding. The wind rustles the river's surface, distorting their reflections for a moment. But when it settles, the images line up again. Two figures, side by side, staring at a world they helped rebuild. 2 weeks. That's all it took for silence to become a voice the whole country could hear. The headlines are smaller now. No chaos, no shouting, just stories, quiet ones, about officers attending empathy training, judges speaking at schools, and communities beginning to trust again. For once, justice isn't a scandal. It's a habit. At dawn, Judge Alicia Brown stands at her window watching the city wake. The courthouse gleams under the pale gold light. For the first time in years, it doesn't feel heavy. Her phone buzzes. A reminder. Federal Oversight Committee. First session, 9 a.m. She smiles faintly. The work continues. She picks up her robe, running her hand over the fabric. It's just cloth, but it's also armor. Not against people, against forgetting. Across town, Mark Turner jogs through the park near the training center. His breath forms small clouds in the cold air. As he runs past the river, he sees something new on the wall. A mural. A painting of two figures standing side by side, facing the horizon. One in uniform, one in a judge's robe. Below them, words in white paint. Justice doesn't shout. It listens. He stops, hands on his knees, smiling through his breath. He doesn't need to ask who painted it. He knows the city did. At the courthouse, Alicia walks through the hall she once hated. The same marble corridor where it all began. The same metal detectors. The same echo of footsteps. But the energy is different now. When she enters, the security guard, a young black woman, straightens immediately. "Good morning, Judge Brown." Alicia smiles. "Good morning." The words are simple, but they matter. Two people greeting each other as equals. That's where revolutions start. In her new office at the committee headquarters, a dozen folders wait on her desk. Each one labeled with a city name, a department, a reform plan. She flips through them slowly. Bias training, community representation, independent review boards, progress printed on paper. It's not perfect, but it's happening. Jamie knocks on the door. "They're ready for you." She nods, gathering her notes. "Big day," he says. "Big future," she replies. At the same time, Turner finishes his morning class. The recruits stand, clapping as he ends the session. One young officer steps forward. "Sir, I just wanted to say thank you for being honest, for showing us what accountability looks like." Turner shakes his head. "Don't thank me. Thank the people who forced me to listen." As they file out, one trainee pauses. "Sir, are you ever going back to the force?" Turner looks out the window toward the courthouse in the distance. "No," he says quietly. "I think I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be." At 9 a.m., Alicia enters the grand hearing room for the committee's first session. Rows of officials stand and applaud as she takes the podium. She places her notes down, then looks up, but doesn't speak. Not yet. The silence fills the hall, soft and deliberate. Everyone waits. She finally says, "Before we begin, I want to remind you why we're here. Not because a man failed, not because a system cracked, but because for a moment, silence was louder than hate. Every word lands heavy but hopeful. This committee isn't about punishing the past, it's about protecting the future. Justice must evolve, not through fear, but through empathy." The audience listens, not out of obligation, but belief. She ends with the same words that began it all. The law isn't a gun, it's a mirror. If we're brave enough to look into it, it'll show us who we really are. Applause fills the room, slow at first, then thunderous. But Alicia doesn't smile. She just nods, because applause isn't the goal. Change is. After the hearing, she walks out into the sunlight. Reporters swarm, but she keeps moving. She doesn't stop for interviews. Her silence is still her statement. As she reaches the courthouse steps, she finds something resting on the railing, a folded note. her name written in clean block letters. She opens it. You once said forgiveness is a hallway we crawl through. I'm still crawling, but I'm moving forward. Empty. She folds the note carefully, tucks it into her pocket, and looks up at the sky. That evening, she visits the river again. The water glows orange under the sunset, carrying reflections of skyscrapers and bridges. Footsteps echo behind her. She turns. It's Turner, again. Same coat, same quiet smile. I heard your speech, he says. You made silence famous. She laughs softly. Not famous, just useful. They stand by the railing, watching the water ripple. He pulls a small object from his pocket, his old badge. He turns it over in his hand once, then drops it into the river. The metal flashes in the sun before sinking beneath the surface. Alicia doesn't speak. She doesn't need to. Some endings don't need narration. They stand there until the sun disappears. Two people who started on opposite sides of the law, now reflections in the same water, blurred but together. Finally, Turner says quietly, You ever think about what comes next? Alicia looks at the fading light. Next isn't my concern. Echoes take care of themselves. The river moves, the city hums. And somewhere, far beyond them, a child in another town learns the oath that now bears her name. I will protect without prejudice. I will listen before I judge. I will serve with empathy. A new generation speaking her rhythm. A world forever changed by one silent voice. The wind picks up, scattering leaves across the water. Alicia closes her eyes. For once, the silence doesn't feel heavy. It feels earned.